Alright, it looks like the stream has gone live. I'm gonna go ahead and test and see if everything is working properly, and then we'll go ahead and start with the proper analysis. It does not look like everything's working properly. It does seem like the background is messed up. Let me see if I can fix that really quickly. This does not seem to be working. This is perfect. I love it. Oh, alright, so at least the chat is working properly. Thank you guys for coming to the stream. I'm pretty much just gonna go ahead and test a couple of the things, as well as start a bit of a discussion regarding Zhongli in particular. There's a lot of things that we have to discuss, there's a lot of things that I want to talk with everybody about, and in all honesty, it is very difficult for me to make multiple videos in this regard, so I thought that this would be the best way to go about it. As it stands right now, I am having a couple of difficulty issues, as I'm currently trying to get the background to work properly. Oh yeah, don't worry about that. Zhongyun and Xingyan, they are amazing characters. For sure, I definitely want to make an analysis on them. Yeah, that is unfortunate. Xingyan in particular is looking to be very, very flexible, and I think she's going to become one of the better support characters we have available. Zhongyun has very quickly become a very powerful main DPS cryo user, and as more characters get added that actually work properly with him, I do expect him to rise in popularity quite a lot. I've already seen quite a lot of really powerful combos with Zhongli and Bennett in particular, or not Zhongli, my bad, with Zhongyun and Bennett in particular that work really, really well. But that is not the topic of this discussion at this point in time. Mostly I am mostly worried about talking about Zhongli in this particular part. Oh, thank you very much. I don't know, it's kind of just like the voice that I regularly use when I'm doing discussions. My voice is very flexible, and I often switch between it quite a lot. But with that out of the way, there are a couple things that I do have to talk, mainly discussing Zhongli. And I am trying my hardest to get this thing to work, even though it really does not want to. Let me go ahead and see if I can get the background scene as well as everything else. I've already tested trying to actually go into the game, and unfortunately my PC is not powerful enough for that. So we're more than likely just going to have a static image on the background. I apologize for this. Let's go ahead and add the image and see if that actually works. Oh boy, it really does not want to work properly. This is unfortunately, this is my first time testing this out, so I apologize for all the issues that are occurring right now. Oh well. I'll have to do a bit of testing off time. The stream is now officially here, and we have a lot of people here, so it's better that we just start with a discussion overall. Thank you for all the people over here. And yeah, I'm hopeful that a lot of things regarding Zhongli will change in the future. As it stands right now, he really isn't where he should be. Not to say that he's a bad character overall, his potential is actually really, really high, as I've mentioned multiple times. His potential as a DPS is probably the highest potential any character in the game currently has. That is something that we do have to talk about. Because as it stands right now, it's very clear that MiHoYo are trying to push him into the support role, and if I'm being honest, the support role just doesn't fit him. His overall abilities scale in a very different fashion. They require a lot of they honestly require a lot of consistency in the battlefield in order to work effectively, mainly on his E. His burst is more about just a full DPS burst, but even in that scenario, he's honestly not that great, which is something that I do want to talk about. Yes, as you mentioned, Souls, a buff to Zhongli's burst is probably needed. I don't think an insta-kill will be good for this particular scenario, but I do think that there should be more interactions with it. As it stands right now, it's just very plain. It doesn't actually feel like a proper burst. I know that its main purpose is to be a damaging tool that also brings CC with it, similar to Mona's Stellaris Phantasm. But when you compare the two, it's just not great, if I'm being honest. Stellaris Phantasm has access to Vaporize, something that Zhongli just can't make up with, and the CC is also lower, so putting them in comparison just is way too unfair for Zhongli. And in that particular scenario, it shouldn't be. They're both 5-star characters that have really powerful abilities. Yeah, I do want to talk about his C, because a lot of people are saying that it sucks, and yes, I do agree with that. But there's one particular thing that leads me to believe as to why it is the current way that it is, which is something that I do have to bring up. But before we go into that, also a good point, okay, his signature weapon being attack percentage is kind of misleading, especially when they've told us that they want him to be a support. It honestly doesn't make sense, because what they give us doesn't align with what they're telling us that they're giving us. They're giving us a character that very much fits into the role of DPS in almost every single aspect of design, but they're telling us he's a support. So it's very awkward overall, and I'm not really sure what they're thinking about it in that particular scenario. Based on the information that we have, as well as his design, what I think happened is that in original testing, he was meant to be a DPS, mainly from the stuff that we have gotten from the leaks. And more than likely, in some point during testing, they saw that he was going to be very overwhelming. Pretty much in the same way that I did my original analysis, I did say that he was likely to be the best physical DPS in the game, with the ability set that he had in the leaks, and the math seemed to prove it. In that analysis, I actually used very, very low-end numbers to do the math. I believe I did like 5% lower scaling than Xiangling, and it ended up being better than Razor, comparable to Dailuk, and about the same as Keqing in overall terms of DPS. Yeah, pretty much. Keqing support confirmed. Yeah, so that is something else that is worrisome at this point in time. We've already seen with a character like Child that they're putting a lot of the potential of characters behind constellations, and they're leaving the base kit very bare bones, at least for 5-star characters. As it stands right now, a lot of the 5-star characters have a lot of their potential in the constellations. So much so that a C0 is almost worthless in comparison to other options. Not precisely worthless, I don't see that happening in a lot of cases. From what I've seen from the leaks that we've had so far, Albedo is looking to be a very powerful support, an actual Geo support, I know, that's gonna fit that category really well, even without constellations. So I'm really looking forward towards Albedo, in all honesty. He seems like probably not the strongest character, but he seems like one of the most flexible that will fit into a lot of teams, especially because of his potential for Bolite set interactions, as well as crystallized shields that can potentially be 1 second cooldown, on a 1 second cooldown. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate what MiHoYo is trying to do with Zhongli. Altogether, though, I am digressing quite a lot, so I want to go back into topic, mainly starting with why Zhongli is currently a really bad support, and what MiHoYo can do in order to fix that. Although, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I think MiHoYo's best strategy at the moment is just to ditch the support mentality altogether and just turn Zhongli into a DPS character. from what I can see, a majority of people are trying to make him into a DPS character, and most of them are very disappointed because they don't get the results that they want, so they instead try him in support, where he's even more underwhelming. And honestly, I don't blame him. With the release of the character as well as the trailer, he seems like a DPS character. They're showing a lot of things for him to be a DPS character. As somebody already mentioned, his signature weapon, the Vortex Vanquisher, has the same passive effect as the Bolite set. It is meant to be a DPS weapon with an attack percentage boost. So when we're giving these two characters, it stands to reason that we would think of Zhongli as a DPS character. Unfortunately, as I've stated on my second analysis of Zhongli, currently all weapons in the game are absolutely laughable with Zhongli as a DPS, the only exception being the Crescent Pike. The Crescent Pike is the only reason why Zhongli DPS is currently effective. If this weapon were to be removed from the game, I would probably score Zhongli as a proper C character, which is horrendous. That is the same grade that I give Amber. Let's see, Juan, you make up a really good point. As it stands right now, if they were to release Zhongli in the exact same state that he's right now, but he was a Pyro or even a Hydro character, nobody would say anything. Just because Pyro and Hydro have so much potential thanks to their elemental reactions, that just a character having that element makes them inherently useful in one way or another. Geo does not have that luxury. Geo as a whole is honestly probably the weakest element. However, it does have some of the highest potential characters. I'm thinking mainly of oh yeah, Amber is very useful in a lot of places like Abyss. That is actually one of the reasons why she's not at D. Her charge attack build can do significant amount of damage, especially in Abyss thanks to the modifiers. But being useful in one place that only approximately probably like 2 or 3% of the current population will see is not something that I would recommend. Is not enough for me to recommend that to new players. Hence why I have to put Amber lower than she currently is. One of the things that I do want to say regarding characters is that for the most part, every single character in the game can be played at an effective level with no problems. One of the biggest issues is Abyss, and I believe somebody made a very insightful comment regarding that the addition of Abyss, and Abyss being the current only endgame of the game, skews our perspective quite highly in regards to what we value in characters. As it stands right now, because Abyss is pretty much the top tier event that everybody wants to do, the only thing that we look for in a character is how well they will help us with clearing Abyss. Now, I don't think this will remain as it is. We've already seen that miHoYo is thinking about changing Abyss altogether, probably changing it entirely, but that's a discussion for another time. Giving Geo crystallized? Yeah, no, people sleep on crystallized reactions. In all honesty, once they show a bit more about Albedo, we already have enough with the leaks for me to get a proper baseline analysis of what Albedo will do. But trust me, Albedo is gonna be a really powerful support character if he stays the same way that he is right now. Regardless of the damage, he could do 1 point of damage in every single one of his attacks, and he would still be one of the most valuable supports. So I'm really looking forward to him. They probably messed up the character, in all honesty. As it stands right now, what's more likely to me, just from seeing everything that happened with Zhongli, is that they originally intended him to be a DPS, as it's shown by his by his basic attack chain as well as his E ability. And then when they were testing him, he ended up being too overwhelming, so they had to nerf him down a bit. At which point, they were already very close to release, so they just had to release him with the lower states and probably just say, good enough for now. It looks, at least from what we're getting from the leaks, that they're working on a lot of things at once, and they probably had their team too thin So when they got the overwhelming results that Zhongli put, they had to take drastic actions. At least that's what I think happened. I don't actually know. Oh yeah, I plan on doing a video about Albedo. He's looking amazing as it stands right now. My biggest issue is that I do not want to get hit with a copyright strike. MiHoYo is very, very aggressive when it comes to leak information, so I'm waiting for his first trailer to be released. Once we see his first trailer, once we actually see the abilities, even without numbers, I can already tell you he's gonna be amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of understandable why players would defend MiHoYo in this particular scenario. Yeah, fair enough. Again, most of the overwhelming nature from Zhongli does actually come from his design. His design is incredibly sound. As I've said multiple times, on my first analysis, I put Shang Ling as a stand-in for Zhongli, and then I ran the numbers based on all the buffs that Zhongli will be able to enable, as well as the theoretical potential of his charge attack build. And based on that information, I put him higher than Razor just based on the numbers alone. I put him higher than Razor, I put him equivalent to Keqing, slightly worse than Diluc. He was looking to be an amazing character. But as we now know, they took a very drastic approach with his scaling overall, hence why we are in the position where we are right now. Let's see. Zhongli and Albedo. Zhongli and Albedo will probably work well together, although if I'm being honest, it might be too difficult to make them work properly. As it stands right now, Zhongli desperately relies on having the Traveler as his DPS companion. Ningguang can also do the work just fine, just because Ningguang plus Zhongli makes so much energy that Ningguang is spamming Star Shatter on cooldown, so is Zhongli spamming his burst. So that's why those two work really well together. Albedo, for me to tell you if it's going to work well with Zhongli, I would have to actually look at the numbers. I would have to see his energy generation, I would have to see his overall damage scaling, and I would have to see how good his burst will be. Zhongli plus Albedo, I cannot tell you right now. That is very number dependent. What I can tell you is Albedo plus characters like Diluc, plus characters like Keqing, plus characters like Tartaglia, anybody that has an elemental conversion that can turn into Crystallize, will probably become very, very powerful very, very quickly. Yeah, that's one of the things that I also want to bring up. A lot of these new 5-star characters that we're getting, they seem to require quite a lot of support, whether it be from their constellations or from other characters that are already here, which is something that I hope MiHoYo will take a look at and probably change. Now, do I think it's going to happen? From what I can tell right now, it's unlikely that that's going to be the case, but we can only hope. I'm definitely going to have to do a discussion on Albedo, but in order to summarize, essentially, his elemental skill is a 30-second field similar to Chongyun's, in which every single hit triggers elemental damage of the Geo element. This means that every 1 second, you can theoretically have a crystallized reaction, and the crystallized shield scales based on elemental mastery. Albedo is currently a sword user, which means that he has access to the sword, to the Iron Sting, I believe that's the name of the weapon. It's the craftable weapon that gives elemental mastery. Essentially, just based on initial math, he's capable of making an about 2,000 shield every second, and 2,000 shield, that's half of an uninvested Zhongli shield. It's crazy. It's honestly crazy. Oh, regarding the new mic, I'm currently on the stream setup, and I have actually gotten quite a lot of help from one of my friends regarding mic positioning as well as audio, pretty much insulating audio. I also have a noise gate installed right now. There are a bit of glittering issues with the new mic, but yeah, I'm hoping to up audio quality in the upcoming month, basically. Let's see, let me take a look at the other comments. Albedo will be a better support for Ningguang. That's actually very hard to tell, because one of the things about Albedo is that he's going to be really good, but he's mostly going to be good on melee characters. for Ning Wang in particular, you're likely going to have to stay too close, and Albedo really benefits from having a character that can pretty much enable crystallized reactions, so somebody that has a damage convert on their basic attacks. I don't think Ning Wang will fit that category too well. You could potentially make it work just because of how their bursts might interact together. I don't think it's worth the effort though. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm with. You bring up a good point, Darth. That's one of the reasons why I don't want to talk too much about Albedo until we're getting closer to his actual release. Hence why I haven't done a video on him. But I've gotten way too off topic. I am very excited about Albedo, as you can probably tell. It's time to properly talk about Zhongli, mainly about why his current support is so bad. And for starters, for a support character, we can ignore the normal attack chain, which, yes, is absolutely insane. But for Zhongli, the two things that we have to focus on, we have to focus on his elemental skill, and we have to focus on his burst. And while both of these have really high scaling in numbers, they don't actually do anything when it comes to support abilities. When we think of a support ability, we usually think of a character that goes into the battlefield and within 2 seconds, they are capable of doing a majority of their damage. Zhongli does actually have this on his burst, as his burst is very quick and is able to be cast multiple times thanks to its slow cooldown, but his elemental skill does not work in that way. When you switch into Zhongli and you put down his elemental skill, if you put down his pillar, you have to wait 4 seconds to be able to use his shield. So that means that in that position, you're already losing a lot of DPS. You're already losing a lot of damage potential just from Zhongli being on the battlefield more than he has to. Hence why him as a support is very awkward to work with, especially because his pillar damage is miserably low without support from other geostructures, which is very, very difficult to accomplish when you have Zhongli as a switch-in. So that is one of the main reasons why Zhongli's support is so bad. It's not that his damage is low, it's just that it requires a lot of attention that you can't give when he is a support character. You gotta think about it. If you're playing Zhongli and you want to make the most out of his pillar, out of his C, you're usually having someone like the Traveler. You go into Zhongli, you activate the pillar, you switch into the Traveler, you drop another one of the meteors, you switch back into Zhongli, your cooldown is now finished, you go into your shield, you have energy, your burst is pretty much almost active thanks to getting all the energy from the Traveler, your pillar is hitting multiple times, you drop the burst, you switch back into the Traveler, go another hit, another 4 energy, the Traveler now has her burst, you activate the burst of the Traveler, and now you have that is 7 geostructures resonating with the pillar, each pillar at level 6 doing like 280% damage every 2 seconds. His damage is insane when properly managed, but that's the thing. How are you gonna do that with Zhongli as a support? You just can't. In addition to that, the way that Zhongli's elemental skill generates energy is too unreliable. The initial hit on the cast doesn't generate elemental particles, and every elemental particle after that appears to be completely random. From my tests, which were not extremely in-depth, I only had access to Zhongli from the trial version as well as the one history, the one story quest. I did notice that the more enemies that I hit with the resonance, the more likely I was to get an energy orb. But as it stands right now, that is just too unreliable as a support ability. What you're looking for in a support is damage has to be quick, energy has to be consistent. Those are the two things that you're looking for in a support. Characters like Kea can flex really well into that because of his low energy cooldown and high energy generation. Characters like the Traveler work really well on that. Zhongli, even though he has the low cooldown, his energy generation is too inconsistent to make it work. That's one of the main reasons why Zhongli's support is very bad as it is. His damage is too inconsistent. It can go extremely high when you pair him with somebody like the Traveler, but that's the highest ceiling. The floor, on the other hand, places him in the worst in the game. His elemental skill can either be the worst elemental skill in the game or the best one in the game. There is no in between. One of the reasons for that is because we've explained how the numbers work. The more resonance that you have, the higher the damage. Yeah, I don't think they ever intended that. One of the things about the resonance DPS is that it is a very, very dangerous ability to put into a game, especially this early on into development, because you have to think about it. Characters like the Traveler, her burst generates 4 geostructures that do not count towards the limit. That in and of itself, just the Geo Traveler burst plus Zhongli Pillar at level 6, that's hitting for about 200% damage every 2 seconds. And Zhongli Pillar lasts for 30 seconds. That is a lot of damage, and you still have another 2 structures that you can generate. It is a very dangerous ability to have in the game. I'm honestly kind of impressed that they would even bother with it, if I'm being honest, mainly because of this reason. But when you have an ability like this, you either have 2 options. You make it overwhelming to the point that everybody wants it, or you make it underwhelming to the point that it won't affect future game design. From what we got, it looks like we got the underwhelming aspect. Granted, I do think the numbers on that ability are actually fine. I don't think there's a problem with the damage. The damage is about what I expect from this type of ability. However, with that being said, I do think that his base value is too low. One of the changes that I would actually make to this ability, and we'll get into this in a sec once we finish talking about it, would probably be to raise the level 1 but leave the maximum level exactly where it is. But I'll go into further detail in a bit. That is the main reason why the press version of Zhongli's elemental skill is not good as a support tool. It has all of the resources that it needs, but it requires too much time investment for it to be worth it. A problem that's fixed when Zhongli is the main DPS, as I mentioned in my second analysis, but when he's a support, it's just too unreliable. There's no point in having him in that position, at least not for his elemental skill, or the press version. That brings us to the second part of the ability, which is the shield. And frankly, there's a lot to talk about this shield. So let's get the facts out of the way. The shield is the strongest shield we have in the game, period. There is not a single character that can get close to the shield absorption that Zhongli can. The closest one is Diona, and she's still around 2,000 to 3,000 health less. Granted, that's probably enough. I would value Diona as a shield user 100 times better than Zhongli, at least in the support department. But yeah. When it comes to Zhongli's shield, that's it. That's all it does. It does not generate energy. It does not give you any additional bonuses. It has no buffs attached to it apart from the ones that you get from Archaic Petra or Bolide set. It just does nothing other than be a shield. Shields in general, that's actually a very good point. I don't think shields need a buff per se. They just need better characters that can apply them. Shields by themselves, as it stands right now, they're not really a defensive tool. They're actually more of an offensive one at that, thanks to sets like the Bolide set or the Archaic Petra, as well as things like the new weapons, Memory of Dust, Vortex Vanquisher, and the others that we're going to get eventually. When it comes to defensive utility, they usually just take like one hit and then disappear entirely. That's actually one of the reasons why having constant access to Crystallize is very, very powerful, because that gives you multiple hits that you can take. Shields have very low health overall, even in the greater scale of things. Even Zhongli's shield at maximum capabilities will only be able to take like 4 hits at most. Not a big problem when you're fighting a small amount of enemies, but if you're starting to fight multiple hard enemies, a shield will not save you in a lot of scenarios. Let's see, I'll get back to that in a bit. I do have to keep on talking about Zhongli's shield in particular. As I mentioned, it's just a shield. It can do the exact same things that shields do. It has archaic Petra support possibilities. That's the only thing that it has going over other shield supports. But even in that category, if you're only using it for archaic Petra plus a shield, literally every other Geo character is better in that scenario. Ning Wang will bring more damage. She'll also be more consistent in generating Crystallize. Traveler does the same thing. Like even Noelle, which I consider a horrendous support, brings more to the table than Zhongli does. Because you gotta think about it, Noelle is also just a shield. Her shield is also just as powerful as Zhongli's, slightly lower, in all honesty. But that's all it does. But it also has healing. Like, Noelle brings healing to the table. If what you want from a Zhongli support is his shield, just get a Noelle, give her a Sacrificial Greatsword, and there you go, you have a Zhongli shield. It's honestly laughable how bad this shield is as a support option. It's really good as a DPS option, don't get me wrong. A character that's able to enable a 40% attack boost, as well as the extra 15 from the Geo Resonance on the press of a button. Tell me what DPS character in the game would not trade his elemental skill for a 55% damage boost on his basic attacks. I can't think of a single one. That's one of the reasons why his shield is really good as a DPS tool. But as a shield, it's actually horrendous. Yeah, Noelle is amazing. I love that character. I have my secondary team, the Apocalypse team, is entirely based around Noelle. But I digress. Back to Zhongli. His shield is just overmatched. Honestly, 2,000 to 3,000 extra damage on it does not justify losing other options. If what you want is an archaic Petra support, go with the Traveler, go with Ning Wang, go with literally any other Geo character in the game. Zhongli will not fit that category well for you. If what you want is a Bolite set enabler, you're looking for Xingyan, you're looking for Albedo, you're looking for Diona. Zhongli, while he can fit that role, will be very, very uncomfortable in it, and will likely be a waste of your resources. I'm not saying it doesn't work, I'm just saying the other options you have available are much better, and I just don't want you to waste free-to-play resources, which are very hard to get, getting a character that will be less effective than what you can get for just waiting. That's one of my main reasons why I rate the shield support as low as I do. I'm not saying that it doesn't bring benefits. As I mentioned, Archaic Petra is really powerful in a lot of teams, and his burst does actually do good damage. It's just, as it stands right now, that's it. And literally every other option in the game is better. So, can it work? Yes. Should you do it? Probably not. Which brings us to the last part of the kit that we have to talk about, which is the burst. Now, in the analysis, I put his burst as the worst part of the kit. That just goes to show you how powerful Zhongli's kit can actually be. His kit has a lot of potential. The only thing that it's lacking is the number values behind it. As to why the burst is the worst part of the kit, it's just because the damage scaling of the other parts is so much higher, then the burst just can't compare. As a damaging tool, it's really good. We've all seen the video of Zhongli doing 130,000 damage. Now, granted, that is a very exaggerated video. They're in Spiral Abyss where they're getting massive bonuses, more than likely resetting every single time so that they get the crit bonus with very high critical damage. So yeah, the ability can scale high. The consistency of that high damage is much more minimal. For the ability to do damage, you basically have to get the absolute perfect god set on him. I am talking double Archaic Petra, double Noblesse Oblige, with perfect stats and crit rate, geo damage bonus, health or attack percentage. The actual math, the difference is like 2%, if I'm being honest. If you're going that route, it's better to just go HP. if you're only using him for the burst, it is better to go HP on your clock. I believe that's the one. But going into this perspective lowers the overall value even more than it already is. His value as a shield support was already very low, and going into a damage option just makes it even lower, to the point where I just don't see why you would even bother using this specific build on another character. Like, this is what I want you to do. If you have the maximum damage burst Zhongli build with everything maxed out, put that build on the Traveler and tell me which number is bigger, because I can guarantee you that every single time the Traveler will be higher. And the Traveler will also bring you 15% crit rate buff during the entire position, as well as her meteors, which every meteor generates 4 energy and is on a 6-second cooldown. When you put it in that perspective, what is the purpose of Zhongli? As it stands right now, his only purpose and the only thing that I can recommend you for it is if you have a need for a good DPS, that's when you summon for Zhongli. Because if you get Razor, then there you go, you have one of the best 4-star DPS in the game. If you get Zhongli, you have a very decent DPS in that category. Both of them will accomplish their role effectively. But apart from that need, there is no reason to summon. With that being said, let me go ahead and take a look at the comments and see what we have. Let's see. Oh boy, that's a lot of comments. Oh, I missed a lot of comments. I apologize. Let's see. What do you think about Royal Spear for DPS Zhongli? It gives attack percentage, but the passive gets crit rate. Honestly, when it comes to weapons in the current state, Zhongli's multipliers are just so low that any investment that does not go into the Crescent Pike is an absolute waste. If you have Zhongli, you need the Crescent Pike. There is no other option. Even 5-star weapons just don't compare. His damage scaling is just way too low. Confusion about the 50% bonus. Yeah, basically that comes from the Bowlight set. The Bowlight set gives 40% extra damage bonus on normal attacks. As I have been corrected, it does not actually work with the Crescent Pike. That is one of the mistakes that I made as of late. When I was testing, I forgot to switch my team. My Noelle team is always comprised of Noelle and either the Geo Traveler or Ning Wang. So when I was doing testing, I completely forgot about the Geo Elemental Resonance. That is absolutely my mistake. I will take that. I will take that loss 100%. I'm gonna make a correction video about it eventually. But yeah, Bowlight set plus Crescent Pike does not work. That is 100% my mistake. Asian Guy, I have not seen Asian Guy's videos about Zhongli, if I'm being honest. I don't keep up a lot with Genshin content creators. A lot of the information that I get from Reddit or from myself testing. There are a couple videos that I see here and there. I do not know Asian Guy, however. Let me see if I can get on the comments over to the top, and as soon as I finish with those, we'll go ahead and we'll go to the next topic of discussion. Let's see. The damage on the pillar being too low, even with geoconstructs. Yes, that is actually one of the reasons why his support is so bad. He needs a lot of pillars. Like, he just needs a lot of pillars, and there's very few characters in the game that can provide them. As it stands right now, the Geo Traveler is the only one. Yeah, I do think that his base damage should be higher than it actually is right now. I think that the maximum damage of his pillar is okay where it is. I do think that the base should be at around 40 at level 1, and then going to like 60 at level 6 probably. That would be where I would put it, which actually brings to a good segue towards the next part, which is we want to talk about buffs for Zhongli. Let's see. Let me just finish with these last comments, and we'll continue back for that. For the Petra set, does the crystallize has to be triggered on the character with the set? No, I'm actually working on a video for this right now. The way that the Petra set works is that the character with the set has to be the one to pick up the shield. If the character with the set picks up the shield, that's all you have to do. Yeah, I know, the crystallized reaction on Zhongli is absolutely useless. The only point that it has as of right now is to activate the Archaic Petra. That is one of the reasons why I consider his shield support very, very miserably low. Just use literally any other Geo character in the game. You'll be better. Yeah, his kit is very weird. The majority of the reason why his kit is weird is because it's designed as a DPS kit. That's what it is. It's a DPS kit, but it has support scaling. So the kit does not work as a support, but the kit does not work as a support because it's a kit designed for a DPS, but it does not work as a DPS because its scaling is designed for a support. That is right now Zhongli's biggest problem. That is pretty much the case. As it stands right now, spear users only have the Crescent Pike when it comes to damage. I don't think that that's because of the spear category being bad, but rather because the spear characters that we have scale better in that direction. Most characters have two different attack chains that they use when it comes to their normal attacks. Spears appear to have the Shangling attack chain, which is fast, low damage, multi-hitting attacks, and then there's the Xiao scaling, which is more akin to that of greatsword users, where it's relatively slow, wide sweeping attacks with high scaling. I think Xiao and characters like Xiao will take a lot of power from the other spears in the game, because those spears are absolutely insane. Have you read any of the 5-star spears? They're crazy. Honestly, Sakuri, I think that is exactly what happened. I think when they were making Zhongli, probably like a week before release, they saw his numbers were scaling too high, and they just decided, okay, cut the numbers in half, we'll sell him as a support. The thing is, by that point in development, they had already removed his support capabilities. So, yeah, he just doesn't fit into that role. They'll definitely have to fix Zhongli. I do not think that it is a wise idea to leave him in his current state. Not only because of the precedent that it'll set for future characters, but also because of the backlash that they're getting. Like, I'm not gonna mince words. This release has been an absolute disaster. And their response to it has been even worse. And if anybody's here from has been through Destiny, that entire game's life cycle, Bungie did something similar with the response, and it became the infamous "we're listening" meme that is now pretty much permeating the entirety of the gaming community as a whole. The idea that the developers are quote-unquote listening, but what they're listening is completely different to what the community is saying. And this also appears to be something that MiHoYo is currently going through, especially with their new response. That response is hilarious, but in a bad way. It's one of those moments where you're reading everything that's there, and you look at the evidence, and you just see two different results altogether. It's honestly kind of sad. If they only fix his energy particles, I do think he will be a better character. I don't think that will be enough. I think Zhongli needs either one very strong change or two changes altogether that will make his support capabilities better. On that topic, we do have to talk about that. As to how I would buff Zhongli, flat out and simple, I would drop the idea that he is a support character, and I would just make him into a DPS character. That is the easiest solution. That is the solution that will get the most favorable result, not only from the community, but also from the developing side, since they don't have to code anything extra, they don't have to change anything, they just have to go into the number and change it. That is all they have to do. For this particular change, what I would do is I would grab his level 4 scaling, and I would put that at level 1. And then just scale it properly. That is the easiest solution, that is the easiest fix. That alone will make Zhongli a top tier character. That will probably put him in S, maybe S plus if you manage to get the perfect team for him. But yeah, that is the easiest one. Do that, Zhongli's fixed. Now, for the next option. If they still want to go with the support route, which honestly, they should just give up on that one, they do need to change his abilities quite a lot. One change that has to happen almost regardless is that his energy has to be more consistent. That is actually an important comment. I'll go ahead and respond to that. So whoever has the Petra set has to pick up the crystallized shield in order for the effect to trigger. That is the trigger for the effect. It does not matter where the shard comes from, as long as the person with the Petra set picks it up. That's the trigger for the effect triggering, or for the effect applying. So yeah, you could theoretically have the Petra set on another character, and as long as that character is the one that picks up the shield, that's all you need for the damage bonus. When it comes to his elemental shield, which was the topic that I was going for, there are two things that have to change. First, his pillar energy has to be more consistent. If they want it to be a support ability, they can't leave it in its current state. It has to be able to produce energy at a consistent rate, similar to that of boss. What I would do in this particular scenario would be, first of all, the initial hit of the pillar has to generate 1 energy particle. That is an absolute must of the ability, and that is probably something that should be changed even if they turn Zhongli into a DPS. This is not optional. This has to happen. The next part for that is they have to up the rate of energy generation. As it stands right now, the entire duration of the skill is 30 seconds, and in those 30 seconds, Zhongli has a maximum of 15 energy particles. Now, that's the maximum. Realistically, you're going to be seeing like 5, 6 at most, during a time of probably around 15 seconds. That is horrendous for his energy generation ability. It's good for triggering stuff like the Crescent Pike, because the energy particles are spread out enough to where the Crescent Pike will be up the entire time. But as a support ability, 6 energy particles in 15 seconds is horrible. It's honestly horrible. Think about characters like Kea, think about characters like the Traveler. They can make significantly more energy in a lot less time. That is, if you want Zhongli to be a support, the energy of the pillar has to be consistent. I'm not saying every single pulse should generate energy. What I would do in this particular scenario would be the initial hit generates 1 energy particle, then the next 2 pulses generate energy particles each, the 3rd pulse does not, and then you keep on going that way as you keep on going. So essentially, pulse 1 and 2, particles, pulse 3, no particle, pulse 4 and 5, particles, pulse 6, no particle. Every multiple of 3, no particle, everything else, energy generation. That'll make it consistent, it'll put it in line with other characters' energy generation. It will be slightly higher than Ning Wang, very much lower than the Travelers, but it will be valuable enough to the point where there's a reason to use it. There's a reason to go through the trouble of putting the pillar down instead of just going to the shield. Now, on that regard, the shield needs massive changes. Like, the shield needs massive changes. The shield is good. Nobody's denying the numbers. The casting animation is horrendous. It works alright in the DPS variant where you can CC enemies with the stack chain and then just go into the massive shield, but it has very small intricacies that make it, even though it's the most reliable shield, it's also very unreliable. The casting animation takes about 1.75 seconds, slightly less probably, but somewhere around that mark. For a casting time, that's very horrible. That's on par with Lisa, and Lisa is very bad exclusively because of her casting time. So having that on an ability that's supposed to protect you is really, really counterintuitive. That has to go. The channeling time has to be at maximum 1 second. Yeah, that actually brings up a good point. You can do that 100%, and that's actually encouraged. That's something that would be beneficial to you. But even if you do that, the energy will still be within acceptable amounts. Even if you were spamming the eat ability at every point in time, like you're supposed to do in DPS Zhongli, you would only be generating probably about 9 energy orbs within the span of about 12 seconds. That's slightly higher than the Traveler, but it'll not be. It won't be game changing in any way. It'll be more consistent, which will make the character feel significantly better, but it won't be overwhelming. There are characters that can make significantly more energy, like Venti, or the Traveler herself. Back towards the shield, however, if they want this shield to be a support ability, it has to do something else. It can't just be an Archaic Petra activator. It has to do something else. Anything else. Literally anything else. Give it a small damage bonus. Give it an aura for Crystallize like Xingyan has. Give it anything. Movement speed. Just crit rate. Anything. Damage bonus. I don't care. Just give it something to be worth. I'll even take movement speeds for God's sake. What are the chances he gets buffed? I do think they're gonna buff him. I don't think they're gonna buff him the way that they have to. They do have to make some fairly aggressive changes, and I don't think miHoYo is confident enough to do that yet. I think as the game progresses, and as more avenues of discussion open up, they will eventually look back at Zhongli. Based on what I have seen from the response, I don't think they're going to take it far enough. Changes will come, that's more than likely, but if I'm being honest, it looks like instead of buffing Zhongli, they're just going to buff Geo altogether, which might honestly be enough, but it won't remove the changes that have to happen for Zhongli to feel comfortable. In the final days of the banner, or in 1.2, I'm honestly thinking they'll probably do it in 1.2. Realistically, they should just go into maintenance like next week and up his numbers. That's probably what I would do. I would just schedule maintenance in like probably next Friday and just up his numbers on the damage on the normal attack. That would probably solve all of their issues, if I'm being honest. Will they do it? I doubt it, but we'll just have to wait and see. Oh, really? They're doing random testing like that. That's actually very interesting. I was not aware of that. That is potentially a really good way to go about it. That does bring a little bit of hope to my heart. Yeah, Heaven, I understand this, but if I'm being honest, this is a topic that we have to do as a community. Like, we have to talk about Zhongli, because this is not okay, and we can't tell miHoYo this is okay. We have to speak up. Now, I'm not saying we have to speak up in a hateful manner. There are a lot of things about Zhongli that are respectable and are worthy of praise. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that we have to criticize and we have to talk about. Again, in a respectful manner, but they have to be talked about. If we just let this go as it stands, we are the ones who are going to suffer for it. My ideal scenario would be to open up a line of communication with miHoYo, where we can have representatives from the community talk to them about the good that they see from Zhongli, as well as the bad that they see from Zhongli. Oh boy, I'm starting to get a lot of comments. It's starting to get overwhelmed. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Have you heard about the interval in miHoYo between devs wanting stronger characters, but older staff want them weaker to milk players? Oof, that sounds like a hole that I do not want to mess into. If true, that would be pretty bad for the company as a whole. not even from the perspective scenario. Doing that for characters will not get them the results that they want. Games like Genshin do rely heavily on whales. Let's not cut to the chase, but a majority of the player base is starting to grow jaded from the previous releases. So if they start making weaker characters, that's not going to end well for them. The start of Genshin was based around the characters being very strong and fun to play with. If they slowly remove that, they're going to lose their population very quickly. And even free-to-play players are very valuable for games like Genshin. They're free publicity. I mean, just look at me. I'm completely free to play, but I'm talking to a lot of people who could potentially become people who spend into the game. Again, I do not recommend that you do that, and if you do, I would recommend that you stick it exclusively to the Battle Pass or the Welking Moon. Don't go further than that, it is not worth it. But at the end of the day, I am fully aware that me simply talking about the game will eventually incite people to spend money in it. If they start losing their free-to-play audience because they're making weaker and weaker characters and they're making it harder for people to progress, at that point, how long will they keep track of their whales? If there's no population for the whales to play with, then just what's going to end up happening? You need a healthy balance. You can't just look at one or the other. You have to look at both. Let's see, continuing into chat. Let's see, a lot of talk about the Archaic Petra. Yeah, I do think Archaic Petra is very clunky at the moment. I do confirm with that, Das. It's kind of annoying to get it at times, and I currently have it on my Ning Wong because 15% extra damage bonus is crazy. And I have a C4 Shangling, so her Pyronado does massive damage. But whenever it happens, it usually just happens by accident. I don't go out of my way to pick it up, even though I probably should. I just don't. If I go into Abyss, I would probably keep track of it a bit more. I do think that would be a wise decision, Joseph. Even if prioritizing on whales will not keep the game alive forever, it'll guarantee that it will at least live 2 or 3 years. But we're humans. Our attention span is worse than goldfish. We're not gonna stay in a game. As soon as we find it boring, we're gonna jump into the next thing. That's one of the reasons why you need a healthy community in order to keep free-to-play games alive. If you do not have the community that's making content that you can't, you're just gonna lose it entirely. So, prioritizing whales is definitely the wrong way to go. But I'm digressing way too much. I have to go back into the buffs. I've only talked so far about the buffs to the shield and the buffs to the pillar. The shield, simplified, if you want it to be a support ability, it has to do something else. It can't be just the shield. Literally anything. I'll take movement speed. I don't care if it's something super strong. I know that his C6 makes it into one of the strongest abilities in the game, but let's be honest. What's the percentage of people that are going to have a C6 Zhongli? If it's higher than 1%, then I think we have a different problem. So in terms of discussion, we're going to get rid of the C6. Oh, don't even get me started on Ganyu. Don't even get me started on Ganyu. I have a whole essay of just absolute hate on that one. I have to get rid of a lot of the hate if I want to talk about her. If I want to talk about her properly. She's best waifu. I'll say that right now. Sorry, I got a thing for Oni girls. I like her a lot, but oh god, does she look awful. Alrighty. Darth, that's actually a really good point. I would love it if they would do things like that. I think guilds would fit really well into the Genshin community, mainly because of the way that co-op is set up right now. Imagine if you could go into the Adventurers Guild, make a proper division of the Adventurers Guild, where you recruit players to your area, and then you just have like a home base where people can go into each other's worlds. That would foster a community so heavily, and I definitely think that is something that would be amazing for this game. I would love that. Do I think it'll happen? Maybe. I don't think we'll see it anytime soon, though. If that's happening, it's probably going to be like late year 1 or early game 2, if it's happening at all. I'm digressing way too much, however, I do have to talk about the buffs towards the burst in particular. The burst, everybody can agree that the burst is good. I don't think it's that great, if I'm being honest. It is definitely the worst part of the kit. It does good damage, though. That is undeniable. But it provides nothing else apart from that. There is nothing that differentiates Zhongli Burst from the Traveler. And as I've said multiple times, the Petrify CC doesn't justify the burst being as it is. Petrify has to do something else. It can't just be CC. Because if it's just CC, it's directly competing against the Frozen Elemental Reaction. And Frozen Elemental Reaction is absolutely insane. My current team consists of Tartaglia, Diona, Bido, and Mona. That is my team. I got very lucky. I will 100% accept that. But if the 3.5 duration of Zhongli on his burst is supposed to be able to compete against my Diona, who can pretty much keep an enemy frozen for the entire duration of her burst, the whole 12 seconds, just by having a different character that I was going to use either way in Tartaglia or Mona, or any Hydro character for that matter, I just don't see how you compete. Diona's burst has healing attached to it. Her shield has movement speed attached to it. It also reduces the attack of enemies, and that's just one character. I'm not even talking about other characters like Chongyun, who can accomplish the same thing with Xingqiu, however you pronounce his name. It's just, as it stands right now, in terms of CC, 3.5 seconds is too little. If it's not giving you something else, like Mona's Stellaris Phantasm, which gives flat-out damage bonuses, there is no point to rely on that over Frozen builds. It just does nothing. That's kind of the problem as it stands right now. It relies too heavily on the Archaic Petra. Archaic Petra at the moment is the only reliable damage buff that Zhongli can enable, and every other Geo character in the game, including Noelle, who only has a 21-second Geo damage on her shield, applies it better. It's too unreliable. It's not enough to make him a good character. It's enough to make him usable. It's not enough to make him good. If they want to buff his burst, they either have to give him the damage bonus that it originally had in leaks. 20% extra physical damage bonus is more than worth it for characters like Racer or other characters that specialize very heavily in physical builds. That will make a support worth it 100%. If they give him the Geo damage bonus as well, that'll also make it really good. I legitimately think that the best way to turn Zhongli Burst into a DPS Burst is to give it back the damage bonuses. That is the easiest way. Is it the only way? Not really. There are other options that you can do. Options that I wouldn't like as much, but options that are available nonetheless. One of the things that I would recommend if you think that the damage bonus is a bit too high would be to make it so that if you petrify an enemy and that enemy dies while in petrify, either your shield increases its duration and power based on the number of enemies that you killed. That would probably be a really good buff. That would also put him in line with what we saw in the trailer. Just imagine if at the time that you petrify an enemy, you cast the shield, and every enemy that it hits on the petrify adds an extra percentage of health to the shield as well as extra duration. That by itself will probably make the shield very valuable. On its own merit, it would still be just the shield, but it would be more valuable nonetheless because the duration and the shield being so high, and the damage bonuses could be outscaled. That is one way that you could do about it based on what MiHoYo wants. That's not what I want though. I very greatly think that the best buff is to just give him the damage bonuses back. But another buff that I would give that would also be valuable would be to make it so if you kill an enemy that's petrified, you get energy. I think that would be the best way to go about it. it would make it more similar to Venti in that regard, in terms of energy generation. I would probably lower it down a bit just because it can scale very highly if you do go with that direction, but it would be a valuable buff nonetheless. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the chat is saying. Let's see. Oh boy, it's going way too fast. I might have to open up a different menu. Give me one sec. Petrify needs utility. Yeah, that's pretty much all it is. As it stands right now, it's just useless. What do you think about the Geo artifact? I've not actually seen the Geo artifact that's been leaked. If somebody could please tell me what the Geo artifact is, I will go ahead and make a decision on the fly. But to summarize everything that I've said so far, if you want to make Zhongli a DPS, you only need to buff his damage. Regardless of what you do, you more than likely need to make his pillar energy more consistent. And if you want him to be a support, you have to buff his shield so it provides buffs. It can't just be a shield, it has to be something else. For starters, it's a Geo shield, so that already makes it weaker than the rest, and it has to do more. That's all it is. When it comes to his burst, you have to give it utility. Any form of utility. I don't care what you choose, just choose something. But yeah, that pretty much finishes what I wanted to talk about regarding Zhongli buffs. Honestly, Blue Frost, I think that's what they have to do. If I'm being honest, that's their best response. Just admit that you screwed up, look that a majority of the players want to play Zhongli as a DPS, and just give them what they want. It'll be a lot better. It'll be a lot better that way, if I'm being honest. Yes, Joseph, that is a very good point. It can petrify enemies behind shields. However, a point on that regard is, what's the benefit of that? If you're using Zhongli, don't get me wrong, that is a really good ability that if it was another character, would probably make that character really good. Like, imagine if Mona could use her Stellaris Phantasm through shields. That would make it really good. But even more than it already is. But that's because the ability is already powerful by itself. Zhongli Burst doesn't have that benefit. In addition to that, the 3 seconds that it provides on the CC department, what benefit do you have when you have a Zhongli that's already giving you a shield? It's just overkill. It's overlapping aspects. He already has crystallized access. He already has his own shield. Why do you give him more CC? Why do you give him more abilities to survive when he already has the 2 best ones? It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is right now, Bricks. Zhongli is in a tug of war of whether he wants to be a support or he wants to be a DPS, and he can't stay in this scenario. He has to choose one or the other, or he has to be effective in both roles. And as it stands right now, he's neither. Let's see. Really, you can break seas, blah blah. Oh, that actually brings me a good point. If they want to buff geo damage as a whole, I think the easiest way to go about it would be to give geo damage a bonus against elemental shields. Now, don't make the bonus too crazy, otherwise geo will be overwhelming. But I do want it to be a reliable option when it comes to breaking shields. Probably somewhere around like 40% extra damage to shields when you hit them with a geo attack. That would make it so that it's more consistent. It would make it so that it would be something that you would actually think about bringing to Abyss, since you would be able to deal with shields, although slower, more reliably, which would overall increase a lot of DPS times. So if they want to buff Geo, I think that's the best way to go about it. Make it so that Geo becomes not the most efficient at any one thing, but the most consistent overall. I think that would be the best buff, but that would actually require quite a lot of testing for me to prove if that would be an effective thing. Testing that I just can't do because I'm not the developer. Oh, Das, yeah. So essentially, the reason why Zhongli is a very effective DPS character stems from the way that his abilities work together. They flow really well, especially his normal attacks and his elemental skill. One of the things that makes it very, very, very powerful as a DPS tool is, for starters, his element, as well as the way that his chain works. His chain is very, very powerful with the Crescent Pike. It provides a lot of very good bonuses that can do quite a significant amount of damage, and his charge attack is insane. Like, his charge attack is crazy. It has a lot of mobility. It goes extremely fast. You can cancel out of it very, very quickly, and it just does a lot of damage. It's probably his most damaging tool at the moment. His chain is just very, very, very powerful. And when you combine that with this elemental skill, which does extra damage and enables the Crescent Pike passive to be active almost constantly, that's honestly the reason why it's so good. Because while the energy is not consistent, you don't need it to be consistent. You only need it to drop the one particle every 5 seconds, something that it can reliably do after it has been set up. So that's one of the reasons. His pillar allows for almost permanent access to Crescent Pike. His chain combines very, very well with it. And when it comes to his shield, shields are actually one of the best ways to increase your damage in this game. The Bolite set gives a lot of power for very cheaply when it comes to that scenario. So being able to just have the Bolite set and on top of that have the Geo Resonance bonus, tell me which DPS in the game would not trade their elemental skill for an ability that says, give me 55% extra damage on my normal attacks. I can't think of a single character that's DPS centric that would not get rid of their elemental skill for that. And as it stands right now, that is currently what Zhongli gets. Oh, that's because the numbers are just way too low. They're way too low. Like, the only reason why he can keep up with characters like Xiangling is because his buffs are so good in the first place. You gotta take into account, Xiangling has almost double Zhongli's power as it stands right now. Significantly higher if you scale them up. Very, very significantly higher if you scale them up. Yet Zhongli's numbers are comparable to Xiangling's. They're keeping together despite Zhongli being neutered incredibly, by an incredible margin. So that by itself is very impressive. If they just increase his numbers by like 10% in every scaling, he'll be one of the better DPS in the game, which is what people want, because they don't want him to be this weak. It's not so much that he's a bad character. Zhongli is a good character. He is designed really well in the DPS spectrum. I've said this multiple times, his design is beautiful. It's just, his numbers are not there. They're comparable to that of Xiangling's. And Xiangling already scales well highly in the DPS spectrum. I think she's like number 7 or so. So Zhongli being number 8 as a 5-star character of the same weapon type with the same weapon scaling is kinda laughable in all honesty. Oh, so that's the new set for the Geo element. Huh. If that actually becomes true, that would actually be pretty good. That would actually be pretty good. Crit rate is one of the easiest ways to increase damage in this game. That's one of the reasons why the Cryo Elemental Resonance is so powerful, and one of the reasons why Chongyun and Ayaka are going to be really, really good. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't want to cover leaks until they're looking like they're actually going to be real. One of the reasons why I even did the first Zhongli analysis in the first place was because we're already very close to its release, and the trailer had already been shown. So I expected them to at least remain the same. I did not expect the numbers to be this low, however. That caught me completely off guard, just because from a rational perspective, it seems like the wrong move. Yeah, that's kind of the problem right now, Fenrir. It's just, he has the best feeling, best designs normal attacks in the game, but his scaling is the absolute worst. It's honestly laughable how low the scaling is. So much so that if you take the Crescent Pike out of the game, he's probably the worst damage character in this game. That is how bad it is. I can probably make any other character in the game do more damage than Zhongli without a Crescent Pike. Yeah, Zachary, that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't want to cover leak content anymore. I still want to do pre-release analysis, but I think I'm going to wait until we get a trailer before I do the pre-release analysis, just so we can see what does remain, and then we can talk about the base kit as a whole without going too deep into the numbers until proper release. Blue Frost, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I get a lot of that from characters, from people that they skipped Child in order to get Zhongli, and Zhongli just released in the way that it did. I'm honestly very disappointed that that's what happened. If it makes you feel better though, I think you dodged the bullet. Child, while really powerful, is extremely hard to build, and the majority of players will not be able to get him properly. And if you want me to be honest, I think your best option will probably go to just wait for Xiao. Xiao will likely be really good regardless of what happens. Yeah, Zachary, I completely agree with him. A lot of the animations for Zhongli are beautiful. Like, again, this is a character that I would show in a class on how to design a good character. I would, of course, buff up the numbers before I do that, but this is textbook perfect design. It's just the numbers don't line up. as it comes to that, it's mainly just damage bonuses really, and the way that the kit revolves. It's less about the look, and it's more about the actual math behind it. If you were to scale up the numbers, he just does more damage than everybody else. That's all there is to it. Oh boy, that's a lot of comments. Let's see. Yeah, as it stands right now, Xiao is looking like the best value when it comes to upcoming 5-star releases. Second to that is probably Albedo. Ganyu, just skip. Just skip. I cannot recommend Ganyu in almost any scenario as it stands right now. The only way I will recommend Ganyu is if you already have a very powerful cryo-centered team that will work with her buffs, at least the ones that we see right now. Which, given how much MiHoYo hates buffs, she might not even have when she releases. I think they've already seen the massive backlash that they got from Zhongli. I think they'll be very wary when it comes to nerfing characters pre-release. They're very much aware that at this point in time, what they're working on is the worst kept secret in all of gaming industry. In all of the gaming industry. We know exactly what they're working on, and we'll likely continue to know exactly what they're working on. Oh, by no means. Zhongli is actually really, really fun. I still wanted him despite the lower numbers. I just don't have the resources to get him. As a DPS, he is top on the list on those that I would like to play. He's just not where he should be. When it comes to 5-star characters, a lot of the hype about 5-star characters is that you got a game-changing unit. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the DPS department. It can be in anything else. But a 5-star unit should be something that as soon as you get, you change your entire team around that unit. If you get a Dailuk, you now have one of the strongest DPS characters in the game, so you begin changing your focus to looking for support characters that will help that character. If you get a Chi-Chi, you now have one of the strongest support units in the game. You look for characters that support that she can support exceptionally, like Dailuk for that matter. A counter argument for oh, that got me. Sorry, that actually got me. Dr. Pancake, congratulations, that got me. Yeah, Ganyu is probably my favorite look character when it comes to looks. She is absolutely best waifu. But yeah, my brain takes precedence, and my brain's telling me that Ganyu is horrible as it stands right now. That's kind of the biggest problem when it comes to DPS Zhongli at the moment. Because Geo is so bad with dealing with elemental shields, you have to build teams around it that can supplement that weakness. That's one of the reasons why, if I were to buff Geo, I would make it so that Geo damage has extra bonus against elemental shields. I originally thought that was the case when I was first playing the game. It wasn't until much later that I figured out that wasn't the case, and I was very disappointed when I did. If they increase his petrify time, I don't think that's gonna be enough. For his petrify time to be good, it would have to be like at a 6-second minimum. That's the minimum that I'm placing for me to consider using it over other options, because that's about the minimum that I will get from a freeze composition. It is definitely one option though. So as it stands right now, we're probably just gonna have to wait and see. On that last topic though, I do have to talk about mistakes that I made on my analysis video. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one. It's a pretty big one though, so we do have to talk about it. I was under the impression that the Bolite set worked with the damage bonus from the Crescent Pike. I have now confirmed that this is not the case. The Bolite set does not buff the Crescent Pike damage. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people are suggesting that you go for a 2-set Bloodstained and a 2-set Gladiators, and that will increase the damage by quite a significant amount. Now, I do not think that is worth it, mainly because the damage difference is still relatively comparable. You do indeed get higher damage with the other sets, but you lose the 35% extra shield from the Bolite set, and I personally value that defense higher than I value the extra 10% damage. But if what you want is just pure damage, by all means, I should probably add this at some point. I have no idea how I would do it. But 2 Bloodstain, 2 Gladiators. That is maximum damage Zhongli. I still recommend that you go for Bolite set. Zhongli helping Ning. No, Zhongli does not help Ning. Not in the slightest. His original release did, or well, his original leaks did by quite a bit. His new numbers do not place him as a good support for Ningguang. Ningguang is a great support for Zhongli, however, because if you have Zhongli in the main DPS department, his energy generation is significantly more consistent. Not enough to where it's justifiable as to why it is where it is, but it's enough to where it's usable, and that does allow for very high bursts of damage with Ningguang Zhongli. So if you have Zhongli and Ningguang, Ningguang is likely going to be a support in that combo. Bullet should do pretty well with Vortex Vanquisher, even though I still think the numbers favor the Crescent Pike. I'll have to do math on that one to be completely sure, but I'm almost certain that the Crescent Pike will beat out the Vortex Vanquisher in almost every scenario. Yeah, that's kind of the case, Tony. That is my main issue with Zhongli support at this point in time. He just does nothing. He does nothing to deserve that scenario. If what you want is a good support that's also Geo, just wait for Albedo. Albedo will do that significantly better. So as it stands right now, that is the only mistake that I've done on the Zhongli analysis. If I made another mistake, by all means, please correct me. The last thing that I want to do is spread false information. That's one of the reasons why if I make a mistake, I will flat out admit it, and I will try my best to correct it. So yeah, if you see anything else that's completely wrong, please do tell me. A lot of my information I get by myself, and I am human. I do make mistakes, like the one that I made on the FAQ video. Very few people watched it, but I actually started a new series that I was going to call FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions about Genshin Impact. And the first one was, does the Crescent Pike work with the Bolite set? I think about 100 people watched it, and I was very quickly corrected that it does not. As it turns out, I had the Geo Elemental Resonance, and since I was only testing to see if the number changed, not the amount that it changed by, I just guessed that it was working properly. That was definitely a mistake on my part. Huge blunder. I will try to prevent it from happening again. But I do want to keep that type of series eventually. The one that I'm probably going to do next is probably going to be an FAQ regarding how the Benarier set as well as the Archaic Petra set work, since I see that question pop up a lot. Oh yeah, the Crescent Pike is ugly. It is horrible. I am really hoping that when they come up with skins, they also have weapon skins, because I want my weapon to look as good as possible. That is true. The extra shield from Vortex Vanquisher is very, very helpful. It is undeniable that if you get it, it'll be a good choice on him. But it'll mostly depend on what you want. Do you want the extra survivability, or do you want the extra damage? In a lot of cases, just because of the way that the game is coded, you will more than likely take the damage just because of places like Abyss requiring you to clear things in a timely manner. Again, I watched a comment that I want to reply to. I watched it early in the morning before I started the stream. So I'm probably going to reply this after the stream I'm probably going to reply to it after the stream finishes, but it was a very, very well done analysis of the negative impacts that the Spiral Abyss has on the player base. And it was honestly very well done. I'm probably going to do another discussion like this one at some point or another regarding that topic. Tony, honestly, I think they're just mostly hopeful that it is. If the deafening silence from MiHoYo has been horrible to bear, especially when you look around and everything you see in comments on videos and other things is just the community on fire, because of the release of Zhongli. It's not been as bad as other horrible releases that I've seen, but it's definitely been the worst for Genshin. I'm gonna be on this one. I do not like the design of the Crescent Pike. It is not my favorite. I think I like the clocks that it has, but I don't like the positioning. They feel too overwhelming in the design for my like. Yeah, Zachary, that is something that not only you, but a lot of people are in that situation. So I remember somebody telling me that the drop rates were like 20%. I've killed every single boss since beta except for like the first week, or not since beta, since the release except for like the first week, and I've only ever gotten a single prototype blueprint to drop. Plus 1 second on Petrify? Really? Really? Oh, that is so bad. I really hope that that's not where they stop. His E is definitely one of the biggest problems as it stands right now. It's not that the ability is bad, it's just that it's just way too inconsistent. The ceiling is extremely high, but the floor is the lowest in the game. If they want the ability to be good, they have to buff it up quite a bit. Not only in energy generation, but also in the damage department. At least if they want it to be a support ability. In the DPS department, it's alright. I won't complain too much about it just because it's so quickly to cast and the shield is really what you want in the DPS department. But as a support ability, it's horrendous. It's horrible. But yeah, as it stands right now, we're pretty much heading to the end of the discussion. The last thing that I want to do is I want to talk about the response that miHoYo is doing to this entire situation, because it's honestly possibly the worst response they could have given. I come from a background where I play a lot of really grindy games, and I play a lot of games that have had development issues. I played a lot of Destiny. That's how I met a lot of my friends. I played a lot of Warframe. That game is a complete disaster. Fun to play at the beginning, but god, it's quite something. I've even tried Borderlands 3. I was actually doing videos for Borderlands 3 for a while. Some of them were actually starting to get quite a bit of traction, but the game just burned me out. It was bad. There was like a nerf every week, and almost every video that I made became useless the next day after. It was bad. It was really bad. A lot of the big content creators do love Zhongli because there's a lot to love about the character. Like, he looks really good and he feels amazing, but we have to keep those feelings out of the picture. His numbers are bad. They're not good. We can all see the 100k plus damage on his burst that everybody's talking about, but as I've said before, you're putting that in Abyss where you have massive crit multipliers. You're resetting the server so that you crit when you get that number, meaning that if you get your critical damage that high in a real game scenario, the crit rate's going to be horrendous, unless you get really, really lucky, which for most people won't happen. And this is the biggest part. Grab the exact same items that you're using on Zhongli, put them on the Traveler, put the Traveler in the same scenario, and tell me what the number is. Because I will guarantee you that the number will be higher. Hence why I do not consider Zhongli support a valuable investment. If you want a Geo character to support you, you are either looking for Ningguang, the Traveler, or Albedo, for those that are looking for 5-star characters. Black Armory, yeah. Oof, I just couldn't. One of my friends literally bought me every single DLC in the game so that I would play it with him. I couldn't. I told him to just back out the order and get his money back. Even with free, I couldn't play that game. Yeah, 25k per pillar. That is what I'm expecting from the Geo Traveler. And the burst, Waking Earth is low-key the most powerful burst in the game. Like, in my opinion, Waking Earth is the most powerful burst in the game. In terms of utility, that still goes to Venti, but in terms of pure damage, have you actually looked at the numbers? That thing hits 5 times. That thing hits 5 times. And if you hit 5 enemies, it has a 35 energy cost with a very low cooldown and a scaling that's absurd. I think if you get it to like level 6 and you get the constellations, the scaling is like 400 something %, which puts it at like what is that, 2000% scaling if you get every single hit. It's crazy. Yeah. At this point in time, Zhongli is just outperformed, outscaled in every single regard. He's not outloved though, because you can see that a lot of people love this character, and a lot of people are forcing themselves to love the character despite its flaws. And there's reasons to like the character. Again, respect where respect is due. The people at MiHoYo have made one of the most well-designed characters that I have ever seen. This character feels amazing. This character looks amazing. This character has some of the best animations ever. His numbers just don't align with that. And that's where a lot of people are getting disappointed. $250% per shockwave? Yeah, okay. So that's still like 1000% damage. That's crazy. With the 50% crit rate buff on top of it, as well as the duration, which at max constellation, which you can easily get now. How long does it last? Like 20 seconds total? That's a massive buff. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm thinking, Tony. Zhongli just feels like a DPS character that was probably like the week before release changed to support for whatever reason. That's about it, Pancake. It's honestly very disappointing. It's one of those scenarios where you wish it had never happened, in all honesty, because his release was looking up to be one of the greatest ones. A lot of people were extremely hyped for him, myself included. Another one of my friends was extremely hyped for him. He actually did get him. 26 pulls, he got really lucky. It fits his team really well because he doesn't have DPS characters that are that good. And now that he has Zhongli and Razor, he actually has a really powerful team. Yeah, if you're close up to the enemy, if you're like right next to the enemy, it'll hit 5 times. It's actually really, really good against bosses. Like the flower boss, that thing chunks. Yeah, right about 10k per tick, probably higher in all honesty if you get lucky with the crits. If you're building for GOMC, I do want to cover the GOMC eventually, but my list of things to cover is very, very long at the moment. So I'm probably gonna wait for Inazuma to release, and then I'm just gonna cover all 3 versions of the Traveler at once. I'm probably gonna do Geo first, Anemo second, and then once I actually get the electric version, I'll cover the electric version. That's my current schedule at the bare minimum. The GOMC is amazing. It's one of my favorite characters, if I'm being honest. It wasn't one of my favorite characters. When I first saw it, I thought it was horrible. But then I actually looked at the scaling and it was like, no, this character's not horrible. I'm just not building them right. Honestly, if you want to try a good character, try the GOMC. You'll be surprised at how much damage she does. Oh yeah, the constellations. I said it on the analysis, and I wanted to go harder into it, but time constraints and all that. Zhongli's constellations are laughable. They are hilarious. But that's the thing. They're not a joke. They're what we actually got. Yeah, the GOMC can feel pretty clunky. I was having a lot of troubles getting the pillar placement correct. Once you get used to just holding the ability instead, you can cast it really, really quickly. Like, it takes me 0.2 seconds to get the pillar in the right position. On the Anemo MC, see, I want to like the Anemo MC because there's a lot of good things about it. The C6 constellation probably makes it very valuable. It's the same constellation that Venti has. And the damage on the tornado is actually very respectable. It's just that their abilities do not flow well into each other, and it makes it feel very clunky. The elemental skill brings enemies close together, but then the burst pushes them away. Cool in concept, but in actual gameplay, it's very hard to actually DPS properly with the GOMC burst. That's one of the main reasons why the Anemo MC burst. One of the reasons why the Anemo MC is seen as such a low priority is because of this, because her skills just conflict with each other. They can be used together, and there's a lot of places, especially in Abyss, where she comes in clutch. It's just, out of the two options currently available, I would probably invest more into the Geo. Zhongli good at C6. Yes. C6 of Zhongli changes a lot of things. If his shield had the C6 on the base kit, we would not be in this discussion. This discussion would probably be why Zhongli is the most broken character in the game. But that's not the case. That's a C6 ability that requires upwards of $20,000, and it's just slightly better than Diona when it comes to healing. When it comes to Zhongli, honestly, his potential is locked behind C6. If I were to use a Zhongli, I would either use him at C0 or C6. Anything in between, you're playing C0. That's just kind of how it is. Yeah, as it stands right now, I don't have Zhongli. You can say that I got lucky. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I was trying really hard to get Bido because I really wanted Bido on my team. I love that character. Not only on the looks, but also on the mechanic side. I think Stormbreaker is an amazing ability, especially if you have her at C1. I honestly consider C1, or well, technically C2. C2 Bido to be one of the strongest support characters in the entire game. Oh yeah, that combination is really, really good. The Anemo MC is not bad by herself, it's just she needs a team that can accommodate for her quirks. And as it stands right now, Klee is kind of the only one that does. There's a couple other characters that might be alright, but I just don't see the benefit in using those over characters like Sucrose. Sucrose is really, really good. But again, not everybody has those characters, so if you do have Klee and you don't have another Anemo character, the Anemo MC will work just fine. There's very little difference overall. If you do eventually get an upgrade, go for it, but if not, you'll be just fine. Yeah, good point, good point. C2 actually does make you okay in co-op. Then again, let's be real here. How many of us actually play in co-op? I know a lot of people do play in co-op for a lot of events, but co-op in its current iteration is so unfriendly towards playing with your friends. It's kind of bad. I would love it if they would change it into something completely different. I think they have a good framework for it. It's just they have to enable more things. You have to be able to do quests with your friends. You have to be able to do different things with your friends. You can't just allow your friends to also go everywhere at once, because at that point, you're just playing the game in a weaker fashion, while your friend is off who knows where collecting berries or something. The thing about C2 giving infinite shield is that he already has an infinite shield. So, what's the point? If it was on another character, that would be amazing. Like, his C2 is, on paper, good. But on Zhongli, that's what? That's his third way of making a shield? You don't need that many shields. Yeah, probably. Probably. If they want, you're probably correct, Tony. If they wanted Zhongli to be a support, then he should have significantly more buffs than he has at this point in time. As it stands right now, he's a DPS character forced into support. We are bringing up a lot of really good points of discussion that we're probably going to have to do another point at all time, because we are getting quite a bit out of context. But they are very good discussion points. I do want to talk about co-op at a later point. I want to talk about Abyss at a later point. I do also want to bring up character differences between 4-stars and 5-star characters. I think that's something that a lot of people would actually find really enjoyable. Just comparing base stats and a lot of possibilities. In one of my analysis, I put Fischl as one of the best 4-star characters in the game. The more I look at Bennett, the more I'm leaning towards Bennett. I do want to talk about Bennett at some point or another. 2 Gambler and 2 Petra. Yes, that would actually be pretty good for the GMC. I prefer the Archaic Petra, just because, again, my situation is very different from a lot of people. I do have a C4 Shangling, which I consider a curse, but a lot of people consider a blessing. I prefer it because of that, just because the extra damage bonus is very high. But if you just want to maximize the Geo character, you would definitely go 2 Petra, 2 Gambler. Really, Lucas? I was not aware of that. That I did not know. That is horrible. That is something that has to be fixed. If enemies can attack your shield while you're in immunity frames, that reduces his value by a lot. Yeah. Ganyu. Man. I legit cannot wait enough to talk about Ganyu. I have so many problems with the way that her kit is being designed. And most of them stem from her elemental skill. In all honesty, if they want Ganyu to be released as a good support, they have to change her elemental skill. It is absolutely horrendous as it looks right now. Oh, thank you, Zachary. That would actually be extremely helpful. I just don't... I'm really scared of asking favors like that to the community, even though I know that someone will be willing to. In a lot of cases, I feel like I'm overextending my boundaries. But thank you very much for the support. I might consider it if I do more follow-up videos on Zhongli in the future. I might consider taking you up on that offer. That would probably help a lot for future analysis as well. If I could just borrow other people's accounts that actually have the character, that will help me a lot in testing. Ganyu can become a sniper. Ganyu looks like a DPS, but she is 100% a support. I've already done the math. She has the exact same problem that Amber has. Like, her scaling is theoretically sound, and it is theoretically good. The biggest problem when it comes to her as a DPS is what DPS stands for. Damage per second. If she takes 4 seconds to charge her attack, her damage scaling is just going to be miserably low in comparison to just going up to a character and beating them with a razor or literally any other character in the game. I think, as it stands right now, I think somebody mentioned it as a sniper. That's kind of what Amber is at the moment, but Amber's not good. And Amber has the best design possible for that type of characters. So having a character that's comparable to Amber is never a good thing. Let's see, Shang is going through A/B testing now. Yeah, I've heard that a little bit. I wasn't aware of that. A lot of people are saying that it's fake. A lot of people are saying that it's a glitch. Honestly, it's too early to tell. If they are doing that type of testing, that's probably a good thing. If they're not, and it is a glitch, that's also probably a good thing, because it'll actually show them how crazy of a release and how glitchy Zhongli currently is. Oh, damn. Level 7 Amber, huh? I mean, I have a lot of things to talk about Amber, because I love Amber. I think her design is amazing. It's just, it's currently not where it should be. If her puppet did damage on the initial summon, and was invincible the same way as Mona's is, I think Amber would be significantly better than what she is right now. Because again, her numbers are actually very, very sound when it comes to that form of to bow DPS, at least for the charge attack build. I think Amber is the best designed charge attack bow DPS. But that's the problem. She is already at the top of the charts of what you can possibly get with this sort of design, and she's considered the worst character in the game. It is very hard to get better than Amber, as it stands right now. If they want characters like Amber to be good, they need to make a complete sweep of the way that bow works, and they have to reduce the charge time by a massive amount. I'm talking C4 Diona minimum. Oh yeah, Daniel, everybody's saying that Zhongli is underwhelming, and it's mostly because of the numbers, because the design of the character is really good, and he's still a good character. Nobody can deny that he can fit his DPS role. His DPS, keep that one in mind. His DPS role effectively. He's not a bad character. He still rates at, what, 8th best DPS in the game? It's just, for a 5-star character, the God of War, the strongest Geo Archon in the game, a lot of people are feeling a bit cheated. Yeah, G, I think a buff would benefit everybody. It would probably save a lot of the face that MiHoYo has lost during this incident. Their response was so sad. It was on par with the Bungie "We're listening" response. That has become a meme, at least in my circle of friends, where every time we see something that's just absolutely ridiculous, at least I just say, "We're listening." Yeah. At the moment, Zhongli just scales way too difficult. It's very difficult to scale. If you want his damage to scale, you need geo damage, then you need crit rate, then you need HP percentage, but you can't sacrifice attack percentage because the majority of the scaling is in attack percentage. That's 4 stats that you need to prioritize. It's way too difficult to build them in a proper manner. In fact, it is impossible to build them in a proper manner when you put them in the support department. The DPS can get away with it because Bolite Set gives 35% extra, and that is a flat bonus to the total health of the shield because of the way that it works. So even with just the flower, the shield on a DPS Zhongli with the Bolite Set is still somewhere around 8,000 to 7,000. Good enough to the point where you won't have many problems in a lot of the game. Yeah, that's one of the problems of Zhongli right now. Diona is just better. Xingjian is just better. Heck, even Noelle, a character that I despise putting into support, would probably feel better than Zhongli at the moment. That's probably one of the reasons, because you got a point. I don't think that the numbers are looking too good when it comes to his release. I think a lot of people spent a lot of money at the very beginning, but probably less people than they were expecting, and that if they do not buff them, it'll set a precedent that that's going to be the case, and people are just going to become way more weary. Buffs are just the ideal situation here. I just don't see a realistic reason as to why they would be stubborn about buffing him. Yeah, Pancake, I'm in the same boat at the moment. I'm currently I think my pity is at like 23 or something, and I have like 50-ish summons remaining. So by the time that Xiao is released, I'll probably have enough for at least one chance. I'm really hoping that I get Xiao. If I get Xiao, that'll pretty much cover me in the entire DPS spectrum. Although, if we're going to be talking about leaks, because I saw somebody wanting to talk about Albedo, I did see another character that was leaked, and I've been keeping my eye out on that character ever since the name got mentioned. Um, Rosaria. I am looking forward towards Rosaria as a character. I think she is going to be amazing. Probably one of the best cryo DPS that we will have, just from what I'm looking. So, if Rosaria gets released before Xiao does, I'm probably gonna summon until I at least get one of her. If not, I'm just gonna summon all on Xiao. And then after that, just summon exclusively for 5-star weapons because my team will already be set up. Xiao did get a nerf in testing. He'll probably get another nerf, but in all honesty, the way that his kit works, as long as his damage bonus remains somewhere around the 50 to 70 mark, I doubt he'll be bad. The numbers that we saw in the beta test were already extremely high. Granted, they were like the maximum that you could get. He had a 5-star weapon, very powerful weapons for the time, very powerful artifact sets. So the numbers that we do see right now are very heavily skewed towards his upper potential. But his potential overall is enough to the point where he won't suffer much from nerfs as long as they're not as bad as Zhongli's. If they're as bad as Zhongli's, Xiao might be the worst character in the game. But as long as they're still within a reasonable spectrum, it shouldn't be too bad. I do recommend though that for those people waiting for Xiao, you keep an eye out. Do not spend on the first day. Wait until the next day after to see the initial results. Oh, don't tell me she'll be with a Ganyu banner. No, I really want to avoid that banner as much as possible. Yeah, Lucas, that's probably one of the reasons why I doubt they'll nerf Xiao. I think the backlash that they got from Zhongli was way too heavy, and a lot of people were, and still are, comparing him to Zhongli. So those two characters are too intertwined for the mistakes of this banner to be passed over to the next one. And if they do pass over to the next banner, then I'm a bit worried for the future of the game. I hope Rosaria will be without beta. I hope Rosaria will be without beta, because if I get Albedo, I will not be mad. Albedo's looking to be an amazing character. If I get Ganyu, oh god, I'll be pissed. Oh, again, best waifu, but in-game she looks horrendous. When it comes to Diona and Keqing, I think we're getting pretty close to the point where I'm going to stop the stream. We've been going pretty much for 2 hours as of yet, and I still have a couple things to do. Diona over Qiqi, that is entirely up to you. In my opinion, Qiqi will do more healing, but I prefer Diona because Diona enables Bolite set support, as well as a lot of different scenarios. With Keqing in particular, Keqing is one of those characters that's really weird because she can build into the charge attack variant that works really well with her physical damage, but she also has the potential of the Electro variant, which is very high. So both builds are very viable. I personally prefer the Electro variant, but the physical damage variant is probably the one that does more damage. Bennett raid up, yeah, probably. I doubt they won't. I'm pretty sure they're gonna do a raid up for every single character. The only ones that they might not are probably the free-to-play characters. I don't see them doing those as a raid up, mainly just because nobody wants them. Maybe Kea. Kea actually has a lot of decent potential in him. So does Lisa, but Lisa is very hampered with her casting animations. If her casting animations were made like 40% faster, I think Lisa would be an amazing character. She has a lot of really powerful abilities. See, here's the thing about that, okay? The thing about Ganyu is that she's currently looking like a cryo support. So if Rosaria is also cryo, which she is, we know that she is, it is possible that they would actually pair them together, just because the cryo elemental resonance is really good, and Ganyu in particular benefits from having another cryo character. So it is possible that they would do it. none of us thought that they would release a banner with 3 greatsword users as the rate-up characters, but here we are with the Zhongli banner. So I don't see it past them putting Rosaria with Ganyu. My hope is that they don't, because I do not want Ganyu, and I do want Rosaria. Keqing? Yeah, probably. If she was literally any other element. If she was Hydro, she would probably be better than Diluc. Just because of the consistency with which she can apply her element. In Electro, she doesn't fit that category that well, but her charge attacks are so powerful that it doesn't even matter. Kea is pretty much the only one I'd be okay with as well. Again, I see a lot of potential in Lisa, and I was actually considering using her for a free-to-play run on the Spiral Abyss, but then I actually got really lucky, so there's kind of no point anymore. She's usable, she's not bad. I wouldn't level her up if I had another option, which I do, so I won't. Yeah, that is true. I'm hopeful that that remains true, but I will not put all my eggs in that basket. I fully expect the worst at every possible situation, so that I can prepare for it accordingly. Rosaria plus Albedo, I hope that's the case, because I do want Rosaria really badly, and if I get Albedo, that wouldn't be the worst thing ever. They do an Amber rate up, I'm deleting the game. I feel you. Amber... Ah, man. Amber. She's probably one of the characters that has been the most influential to me in particular. But she's also just horrible. There's no saving her. She has some redeeming qualities, which is why she's at C+. She's not useless. She's just not great in almost every single scenario in the game. A really bad spot to be when you're supposed to be a DPS character. Oh, thank you very much, Sekiri. I'm just trying my best. I've seen a lot of... I've been in a lot of communities that started out really nice altogether, and then ended up souring because of events like this. I always try to just make a place where people can discuss freely without repercussions. Because the moment that we start making social stigmas, that's the moment when we lose as a society. That's unfortunate, Tony. That's unfortunate. Again, though, the banner for Zhongli was not that bad. Like, Xinjiang is looking amazing. Razor has always looked great. And Chongyun has a lot of really good potential. If you manage to get Chongyun plus Bennett, they probably have one of the craziest teams in the entire game. But with that out of the way, I have been going for pretty much two hours non-stop, and my voice is starting to get a bit tired. I think I am going to be ending the stream pretty soon, so I'm just going to go ahead and answer a couple of the next questions, and then I'll probably end in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, pretty much everybody has Barbara at C1. I agree with that. I think only the newer players won't have her that much. Barbara is amazing though. I love Barbara. If I get another Constellation on Barbara, I'm probably gonna replace my Mona on my Tartaglia team, and I'm just gonna make another team with Mona. Ape D Luffy. Oh no way, Swag, is that you? Good to see you, man. It's been a while. Any more live streams coming up later on? Honestly, I think live streams are the best way that I can interact with the community that I have made so far, and I'm really liking what happened in this one. So I do think that it is important for me to focus on this a bit more, just because I think community is probably the most important part of a YouTube channel. And I'm liking the thing that we have going right now. So I'm probably going to do more live streams like this in the future. They're also significantly easier on me, since I don't have to edit for like 16 hours in a row in order to get a video out. That's kind of one of the reasons why I haven't done so many videos as of late. The Zhongli video just tired me out really badly. I worked on that thing day in, day night. But yeah, look forward to more live streams like this in the future. This one was pretty much impromptu. I think the next time that I do, I'm probably going to set up a schedule so that more people can actually see it. I'm probably going to do a video regarding Ning Wang or Xing Yan. I haven't decided which yet. That's probably the next thing that I'm going to be working on. And at some point or another, I want to bring the FAQ series back. I think I'm going to do an FAQ on the Crescent Pike and the Venereer and Archaic Petra sets. That's the things that I have working on right now. Those are my plans for the future. I want to get Chongyun analysis done before the banner ends. I do not know if I'll be able to. But with that out of the way, I do have to end the stream right now. I have not eaten. My food has been ready for like 2 hours, and my voice is starting to get tired. But thank you very much, all of you, for coming into this stream. I was not sure what to expect from it. I'm very happy that it ended up being fairly chill. I think for the next one, I'm gonna try to get the background fixed on the stream, as well as possibly make it a better viewing experience. I'll try my best to see what I can do with my toaster computer. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing for more Genshin content.